Imagine a world so wild and untamed that survival was a constant battle. Over 2.4 million years ago, our ancestors were just beginning to take their first steps toward what we now call humanity. Homo habilis faced a world filled with dangers and challenges, where predators roamed the plains. Despite their relatively primitive tools and simple ways, Homo habilis played a crucial role in the story of human evolution. In this video, we'll take a journey back to that time and explore how Homo habilis navigated a world full of predators, harsh environments, and scarce resources. By the end, you'll understand why Homo habilis is considered one of the first pioneers in human history. How did Homo habilis come to be? Were they the first humans or something else entirely? Homo habilis, meaning handyman, is believed to have emerged around 2.4 million years ago in what is now modern-day Tanzania. They were not humans as we think of them today, but rather part of a long line of hominids that evolved from earlier species, such as Australopithecus. Unlike their predecessors, Homo habilis had a significant advantage: the ability to make and use tools. These early tools, simple stone implements, gave them the edge they needed to survive in an unforgiving world. The tools they created not only helped them process food, but also provided protection, marking a major shift in human evolution. Homo habilis is often considered the first members of the genus Homo, and their development laid the groundwork for future human evolution. Picture vast open savannas, dense forests, and unpredictable weather. This was the world Homo habilis called home. The landscape 2.4 million years ago was vastly different from today's Earth. It was a time when forests and grasslands covered much of Africa. This environment was constantly changing. Dry periods, heavy rains, and intense heat cycles all created challenges for early Homo habilis. The vast savannas provided both opportunity and danger. While there were plenty of open spaces for foraging and hunting, these areas were also prime territory for large predators. Large predators like saber-tooth cats and large carnivores roamed the plains, always on the lookout for an easy meal. Homo habilis had to adapt quickly to survive this ever-changing landscape. Dry periods, heavy rains, and intense heat cycles all created challenges for early Homo habilis. Despite these challenges, Homo habilis learned to use their environment to their advantage, seeking shelter and protection from the elements and predators. Homo habilis did not stay in one place. As the environment changed, they had to move in search of food, water, and safety. How did Homo habilis survive when faced with larger, stronger predators? The answer lies in their hands. Their ability to grasp and manipulate objects was far more advanced than that of other primates. The tools Homo habilis used were simple but effective. Made from stone, bone, and wood, these tools were used for cutting, scraping, and processing food. These early tools, simple stone implements, gave Homo habilis the edge they needed to survive in an unforgiving world. Homo habilis was one of the first species to use tools to solve problems, allowing them to access resources that would otherwise be out of reach. While their tools were simple, they were effective for the challenges Homo habilis faced. Homo habilis was not the fastest or the most powerful species, but their tools provided them with a crucial survival advantage. These tools were the earliest ancestors of what would later become more sophisticated weaponry and tools, marking a major leap in human evolution. The ability to make and use tools gave Homo habilis the ability to access resources that were otherwise inaccessible. The tools Homo habilis created laid the foundation for the tools and technologies that would shape future human societies. Homo habilis was primarily a scavenger, relying on finding meat left behind by larger predators. However, they also gathered fruits, nuts, and tubers to sustain themselves. Their ability to make and use tools allowed them to crack open hard-shelled nuts and dig up roots that were otherwise inaccessible to other animals. Homo habilis could dig up roots and tubers, resources that were otherwise out of reach for many animals. While Homo habilis may not have been skilled hunters like later species, Their survival relied heavily on their ability to adapt and take advantage of available resources. Finding water sources was another critical task. Homo habilis needed to stay hydrated while keeping an eye out for predators. Homo habilis relied on caution and strategy to navigate their dangerous world, carefully selecting safe routes and shelter. In a world full of competition, Homo habilis had to be quick and resourceful, always ready to adapt. By scavenging and gathering, Homo habilis could thrive in a world filled with competition, constantly adapting to new challenges. Homo habilis didn't live alone. But what kind of social structure did they have, and how did they communicate? Homo habilis likely lived in small, tight-knit groups where cooperation played a key role in survival. Communication was crucial for Homo habilis, though it's unclear how sophisticated their language was. They may have used simple gestures or vocalizations to communicate with each other, but the lack of written records makes it difficult to know for sure. Cooperation was essential not just for gathering food, but also for protecting the group from larger predators. Homo habilis likely cared for their young and elderly, creating strong social bonds within the group. In the evenings, around the fire, Homo habilis likely shared experiences, communicated, and bonded as a group. The ability to make decisions as a group would have been critical for their survival, from choosing safe paths to determining when to move or stay. While the details remain unclear, it's likely that Homo habilis passed on survival skills, such as tool use and foraging methods, to the younger generation. In a world where survival was never guaranteed, how did Homo habilis protect itself from the many dangers lurking in the wild? Large predators like lions, saber-toothed cats, and hyenas roamed the plains, always on the lookout for an easy meal. Homo habilis, with its small stature and relatively weak defenses, had to be constantly alert. However, their ability to work together as a group and their use of tools helped keep these threats at bay. Their tools gave them the ability to protect themselves from predators when necessary. By gathering in groups, Homo habilis could defend themselves more effectively. Homo habilis learned to avoid danger by being cautious, making use of their environment to stay hidden from predators. In a world where predators roamed freely, Homo habilis had to be adaptable, using the environment to stay one step ahead. Despite the constant threats, Homo habilis' ability to adapt and cooperate allowed them to survive in a world full of dangers. The Earth's climate was in constant flux, and Homo habilis had to adapt to changing weather patterns and environments. Periods of drought, intense heat, and glacial advances would have significantly altered the landscape they called home. During times of intense heat, survival became even harder as water sources shrank and food became scarce. Glacial advances brought cooler, harsher conditions, pushing Homo habilis to adapt to a new way of life. Homo habilis adapted by becoming more flexible in their diet and shelter choices. They may have migrated across regions in search of more favorable conditions. As their environment changed, Homo habilis became more flexible in their diet, foraging for different food sources to meet their needs. Their ability to adapt to different shelter options, whether in caves or temporary structures, was critical for surviving the changing climate. During extreme climate changes, resources became increasingly scarce, and competition for food and water grew fierce. Those who adapted to these changes were more likely to survive and pass on their genes to the next generation. The ability to adapt to climate change set the stage for future human evolution, with Homo habilis playing a critical role in the survival of early humans. While Homo habilis may have struggled to survive, they were laying the foundation for the future of humanity. As Homo habilis adapted to their environment, something else was changing. Inside their skulls, Homo habilis is often distinguished by their relatively larger brain size compared to their predecessors. With a brain size of about 510 to 600 cubic centimeters, it was still small compared to modern humans, but this was a significant step forward in human evolution. This increase in brain size allowed for better problem solving. tool use, and social behaviors. The larger, more complex brain enabled Homo habilis to process and interpret their environment more efficiently, enhancing their ability to use tools. The cognitive growth in Homo habilis may have been crucial in their ability to cooperate and communicate, strengthening social bonds within their groups. Their brains didn't just grow in size, they became more complex, allowing Homo habilis to interpret and respond to their environment with greater efficiency. This change marked the beginning of cognitive development, paving the way for the fully modern human brain we see today. Homo habilis' growing brain allowed them to thrive in a world filled with dangers, using intelligence and adaptability to survive. The cognitive advances made by Homo habilis were crucial for the development of future human species. Their brain evolution laid the groundwork for the intelligence and problem-solving abilities we possess today. If Homo habilis was so successful, why did they eventually go extinct? Despite their impressive survival strategies, Homo habilis did eventually become extinct. The answer may lie in their inability to adapt as quickly to changing environmental conditions. As Homo erectus emerged and developed more advanced tools, larger brains, and better survival strategies, Homo habilis struggled to keep up. Over time, their populations dwindled, and they were eventually replaced by more advanced hominids. Homo erectus had the tools, the brain power, and the strategies to outcompete Homo habilis. As Homo erectus pushed forward, the gap between them and Homo habilis became insurmountable. The extinction of Homo habilis marks the end of one chapter in human evolution and the beginning of another. Though Homo habilis is no longer with us, their legacy is embedded in the very essence of human evolution: tools, social cooperation, and survival strategies. Homo habilis' story may have ended, but their place in human evolution is crucial, marking the beginning of the journey that would lead to modern humans. How did a small-brained species become a crucial bridge in the story of human evolution? Primitive yet revolutionary, Homo habilis' tools laid the foundation for all future human technology. Early cooperation and communication became the building blocks of human society. Homo habilis set the stage for Homo erectus, marking a vital step toward human intelligence. Though not our final ancestor, Homo habilis shaped the path that led to modern humans and beyond. The story of Homo habilis is just one chapter in the vast saga of human evolution, but it's a chapter we cannot forget. While Homo habilis may not have had the intelligence or physical strength of modern humans, their role in our evolution is undeniable. Their struggle for survival in the harsh wilderness helped shape the very traits that define humanity today: tool use, social cooperation, adaptability, and the will to survive against all odds. These foundational traits set the stage for the more advanced species that would follow: Homo erectus and Homo sapiens. As we look back on their legacy, we're reminded that the journey of human evolution is not a straight line. It's a story of adaptation, survival, and change. Homo habilis' influence is woven into the fabric of humanity. Their ability to adapt, survive, and cooperate paved the way for the advancements of future generations. From their humble beginnings in the wild to the rise of modern civilizations, Homo habilis' legacy continues to shape who we are today. Homo habilis may have been the first to face the challenges of their time, but their legacy will continue to live on in every step humanity takes toward the future. How do we know about Homo habilis, a species that lived 2.4 million years ago? The answer lies in the fossils they left behind. The first Homo habilis fossils were uncovered in the early 1960s in Tanzania by the renowned paleoanthropologist Louis Leakey and his team. This was a groundbreaking discovery, as it revealed the existence of a hominid species that bridged the gap between our distant ape-like ancestors and modern humans. Fossils of Homo habilis include partial skulls, jawbones, and limb bones, offering a glimpse into their physical traits.
The teeth size and unique skull shape of Homo habilis provide crucial insight into their behavior, suggesting a varied diet unlike their predecessors.
The shape of their skulls, the size of their teeth, and the structure of their bones tell us much about their diet, behavior, and capabilities. Through these fossils, scientists have been able to reconstruct the physical appearance of Homo habilis, shedding light on their unique characteristics in the human evolutionary timeline. The fossils also provide clues about the environment Homo habilis inhabited, giving us insight into how they adapted to changing climates and landscapes. The discovery of these fossils revealed Homo habilis as one of the first members of the genus Homo, paving the way for the more advanced species that followed. The search for Homo habilis fossils continues today as new discoveries help scientists piece together the story of our ancient ancestors. As we trace the roots of humanity, Homo habilis emerges as a turning point, marking the dawn of the human genus. Compared to earlier hominins, Homo habilis showed a larger brain, better posture, and the first meaningful use of tools, reshaping survival itself. Toolmaking and social cooperation allowed Homo habilis to adapt, survive, and thrive in a challenging world. Though eventually replaced, Homo habilis laid the foundation for Homo erectus and the evolutionary path toward modern humans. Homo habilis may belong to the past, but their legacy lives on in our intelligence, creativity, and cooperation. Homo habilis may have been small in size, but their ideas were revolutionary. This is where human toolmaking truly began. Though simple by modern standards, these tools marked a major leap, separating Homo habilis from earlier ancestors. Known as Oldowan tools, these early inventions helped Homo habilis cut meat, process hides, and unlock new food sources like bone marrow. Tools became more than instruments. They were keys to survival, defense, and adaptation in a harsh and changing world. The tools of Homo habilis laid the foundation for every innovation that followed, sparking a legacy that still defines humanity today. Homo habilis didn't just survive, they thrived by building social bonds. But how did these early humans interact with one another? Homo habilis' social behavior was crucial for their survival. While they may not have had the complex language of later humans, there is evidence that they lived in groups, which allowed them to share resources and protect one another. Early human ancestors that lived in groups had a better chance of survival because they could cooperate in ways that solitary creatures couldn't. Living in groups allowed Homo habilis to protect one another from larger predators, making their survival more likely. Homo habilis likely had simple social structures, where individuals worked together to raise young and ensure the survival of the next generation. Though their language was likely simple, communication through gestures and vocalizations was key to their social interactions. Sharing resources and food was a critical part of Homo habilis' social structure, ensuring the survival of the entire group. Social bonding was essential for the cohesion of the group. The strength of their social ties allowed them to function as a unit, supporting each other in times of need. The social cooperation developed by Homo habilis laid the foundation for more complex social dynamics seen in later species, like Homo erectus and Homo sapiens. The legacy of Homo habilis' social behavior continues to shape us today. Their ability to cooperate, protect, and support one another set the foundation for the complex societies that define modern humans. The African wilderness was a harsh and unforgiving place for early humans. Every day brought new dangers as powerful predators roamed the land. Survival depended on intelligence, tool use, and the ability to adapt quickly. By cooperating and watching out for one another, Homo habilis increased their chances of survival. The strategies they developed allowed them to survive against the odds, shaping the future of humanity. Homo habilis didn't just rely on individual survival skills, they depended on cooperation. What can we learn from their social bonds? Cooperation was at the heart of Homo habilis' success. By pooling resources and sharing food, they increased their chances of survival. Protection from predators was another key component. With several members looking out for danger, the group could stay safe and avoid attacks. Their social structures were likely based on family groups or small bands. Within these groups, individuals shared shelter, food, and responsibility. Each individual had a role, but success came from cooperation, whether it was gathering food, defending against threats, or working together to solve problems. This cooperation laid the foundation for the more complex social structures that would eventually develop in later human species. The world Homo habilis lived in was not static. It was in constant flux. How did they adapt to these changes? The African continent went through periods of drought, flood, and shifting ecosystems, and Homo habilis had to be flexible in order to survive. They moved from one habitat to another, learning to adapt to the conditions they faced, whether it was a dense forest or an open savanna. They also adapted to changing food availability. In times of scarcity, they may have relied more on scavenging, while during more abundant times, they would have gathered fruits and vegetables. Periods of extreme heat or rainfall forced Homo habilis to adopt their shelter and movement patterns, ensuring their survival in these fluctuating conditions. Their social cooperation played a key role in adapting to environmental changes, with each member contributing to the group's survival in different ways. Homo habilis' adaptability was one of the key reasons they survived for as long as they did, constantly finding new ways to overcome the challenges of their environment. The adaptability of Homo habilis set the stage for the continued evolution of humanity, with the traits of flexibility and resourcefulness still being key to our success today. If Homo habilis was so successful, why did they eventually disappear from the Earth? As the climate changed, so too did the environment they lived in. Homo habilis had to adapt, but these shifts put pressure on their survival. Competition with other species and changing environmental conditions may have pushed Homo habilis into smaller, isolated populations. Over time, these isolated groups dwindled, and Homo habilis eventually disappeared, marking the end of one chapter in human evolution. Though Homo habilis disappeared, their legacy lives on in the traits they passed down: tools, social cooperation, and adaptability that laid the foundation for future generations. While they are long gone, Homo habilis left behind a legacy that still impacts us today. How did they shape the human species? Homo habilis were the first to use tools in a meaningful way, paving the way for future innovations in human technology. Their social cooperation allowed them to survive in a harsh world, laying the groundwork for more advanced social structures in later human species. Their ability to adapt to changing environments was crucial, teaching future humans the importance of flexibility and innovation in survival. Without Homo habilis, the human race would not have had the foundation upon which to build. Their role in our evolutionary story may have been brief, but it was crucial. Their innovations in social structures continue to shape us today, forming the roots of the complex societies we live in. Homo habilis may have been small and simple compared to us, but their legacy echoes through every human action today. Homo habilis was the dawn of humanity, the beginning of a journey that would span millions of years. Homo habilis' struggle for survival in the wilderness was not just a fight for life. It was the beginning of humanity's long and complex evolutionary journey. They paved the way for the development of tools, social cooperation, and the ability to adapt to changing environments. While Homo habilis did not live long enough to witness the rise of modern humans, their contributions were essential to the survival of the human species. As we look back at their story, we are reminded of the early struggles and triumphs that shaped us into who we are today.